What is up, everyone? Today we're going to be reviewing a limited time event hero, Marie. Now, Marie is, in my opinion, probably the best direct damage dealer in the entire game, especially at exclusive 3. And I'll be talking kind of what her exclusives do, what exclusive she needs to be good, and how to get her and build her. So first we'll just go through her skills. Now I won't read them all, I'll just give them a quick rundown. Her A1 inflicts feebleness and can freeze and decreases her skills by 1 turn. All of them by 1 turn, which is really good. So this becomes a 2 turn, this becomes a 3 turn, I think. And then her second skill is just a triple hit, big damage, inflicting Christmas Night. And yeah, big damage. And then her passive is immune to speed down, intermeter reduction, and affection of all her skill cooldown. Affection, that's weird. The effects of all her skill cooldown, so they cannot be affected by others or allies, which is pretty good. And being immune to speed down and intermeter reduction is actually kind of broken, especially when fighting a team that has lance. Really, really hard to deal with. And then her A3 is a big AoE and grants block debuffs on all allies, which is pretty good. And it will also, if she's in resonance, cast cool gifts. And resonance, this basically does a ton more damage. It's going to ignore damage immunity, immortal, and I believe shield. So really, really good. And I think it decreases speed, reduces her speed by 5%. Now for echoes, you're probably going to want to go something like exploding if you don't have her echo. If you have her echo, obviously that's going to be the best, but exploding arrow is generally the best for most direct damage dealers, and it's kind of the same with her. You get more crit rate. If your crit rate is over 150, you get more crit damage, though I don't think you really need to bother with that too much. But you do get more crit damage. And so you get a bunch of crit damage and crit rate with exploding arrow. Now, if we have a look here, it says for echoes, Starlight Afterglow. Now that's not a bad thought, but it's not as good as exploding arrow, especially maybe your mid game, and you don't have a very high level sanctuary. Like me, you need crit rate. Now auras, I actually kind of disagree with this. So I'm using Boss Slayer right now because versatility aura is impossible to get because you need 10 11s. Probably one of the hardest things to get in the game, unless you spend money. Now Bold Confidence is actually pretty good. You get more crit damage, more crit rate, up to 24 and 12 if your HP is above 90%. But, you know, your HP is not always going to be above 90% in most situations. Boss Slayer doesn't actually take too many crazy. It's got 7 is the highest, and then 4 and 3, which is pretty easy to get. Increases direct damage dealt by 18%. This effect increases it by 25% when attacking bosses. So that can really help when you're going against a boss. Maybe it's a clan boss, maybe it's a dungeon boss. It's really good. Blessings are pretty simple. Crit rate, crit damage, attack, speed, and effect resistance. Speed's actually pretty crucial on Marie. You want her to be cycling turns like crazy fast, so you just want her to get as many turns, so a good amount of speed is wise. And you will get more speed the more breakthrough. Breakthrough is also really good for just extra stats in general. Emblems, pretty standard. They're not really too much to talk about there. Now exclusives. This is where Marie kind of shines. E0, Marie is not worth kind of bringing in almost anywhere. And I'll explain, because E0, Marie needs 10 resonance points to go into resonance enhancement. And you get resonance points when an ally ends their turn. So it takes about 2 of her turns. So on her 3rd turn, she'll get resonance. But, you know, that's every 3 Marie turns. That's kind of a long time. But with E1, she can gain resonance points while she's under resonance enhancement. And then, after enemies act, inflicts a layer of Christmas Night on them for 2 turns. If an enemy has 4 layers, she will inflict Imprison. Imprison's an okay debuff. I believe it stops them from getting turn meter or any speed affecting buffs or extra turns. So E1 is the most important. Like, if you're going to buy Marie, you have to at least get E1. Otherwise, she's quite lackluster. E2, at the beginning of each wave and every 2 of Marie's turns, grants Peaceful Christmas. This is probably the OP part of her kit. Peaceful Christmas fixes damage taken by all allies to 1 when they take damage, excluding crit damage. But that's not too much of a problem. And after it's triggered twice, or after Peaceful Christmas is granted twice, it will be granted after every 4 self-turns, and then once it's triggered 4 turns, after every 6. Now this is actually overpowered. Like, stupidly overpowered, and I'll explain why. If you're not even 5 months, maybe not even a year, even after that, people are going to be using dot damage dealers, you know, the Lance of the world, but she entirely counters Lance, because his damage comes from bleed, but no one builds Lance with crit, so he's not going to be able to damage your team. Not too bad. Now you might argue, well, you know, I could just bring Talise in and it'd be the exact same. And you may be right, but I'm not sure if Peaceful Christmas can be removed like block damage can. So I'll have to test that when I get E2. So very overpowered, very nice to have, to be honest, in pretty much any content. Just every 2 turns, 4 turns, 6 turns, and then at the beginning of each wave just to have 2 turns of damage immunity, basically. So just constant damage immunity. Kind of crazy. And then at the beginning of each wave enters Resonance Enhancement for 2 turns. That's really good. In the duration of Resonance Enhancement, after other allies cast skilled enemies, proactively deals damage by 200% of her attack to them for every 1 layer of Christmas Night. This isn't too bad, though it's not like the best part of the kit. For every 1 layer of Christmas Night earned by the target, additionally deals 50% attack damage to them. Each enemy can only be affected by this effect once during each of their turns, and the turn count will be reset at the beginning of their turns. So E2, so E1 is your consistent damage, E2 is great support, and then E3 is increasing damage. So very, very good, though to note, if you have a bad build, exclusives are not going to help as much. They will help, but they're not going to make your Marie do insane billions of damage if you have a bad build or a bad team. Now you want to prioritize in the early game to mid game, no skill damage. just crit rate, crit damage, and attack with fast killing. Now, I've actually tested this, and it seems that if you do not have out of this world insane devour gear or really good sanctuary, then it is just more worth it to go fast killing, double fast killing with high crit rate, crit damage, attack than it is to invest in skill damage early into mid game. If you're late game and you have a high level sanctuary, good devour gear, then obviously skill damage is the way to go. Now I'll give you a little rundown of this, and we'll skip battle this, and comparing to an E3 Marcus and an Erato here. $125. Now that's on the low side of her damage. So, like normally if she survives longer than that, you'd see 138, 144. So out damaging Erato and getting close to Marcus E3 damage, which is kind of crazy. And to give you an idea, my Marcus is really well built. Okay, attack, but 204% effect hit and 75 mastery. She's a little slow though. Now I would say Marie kind of needs E2 to E3 to be dungeon viable, because in most dungeons, you know, you're not gonna have like 2 team rotations so everyone gets a full turn for Marie to get resonance enhancement. So she kind of needs E3 to be effective in dungeon waves, and she needs E2 to also be effective in dungeon waves PvP. So E2 to E3 is where Marie gets really good and starts to actually improve some of your teams. But without E2 to E3, Marie is kind of just okay. If you get Marie E1, then that's pretty good. Marie E2 to E3 is very, very good. Now compared to some other damage dealers, like other limiteds like Jingle Bell or Felicia, I think Felicia's direct damage, or maybe she's direct damage with internal injury. Marie has, in my opinion, higher, more consistent damage when we look at damage numbers. And she also brings more value to the team. I mean, you can see that 3 million hit on a 3-hitter, so 10 million damage. That's not too bad. But you really want to make sure you have at least 85% crit rate on Marie, otherwise she's just not going to do any damage. So you can see keeping up with Erato, and Erato is an HP burner, so Erato is stupid good at doing damage. Now, to be honest, if you're going to E3 any LTE, I would say Marie. She's very good. I don't really know what else to say about her. Priorities for Mythic. Using Mythic scales on gear is going to be the boots and the weapon, and then the crit. So yeah, that is the video. If you have any thoughts, post them in the comments below, or maybe I got something wrong, post it in the comments. Maybe you have some tips for the new players, post that in the comments. Thank you so much for watching.